Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Plami, and in this episode of Plami's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the 19th episode of the 10th season of one of my favorite shows, The Walking Dead. And yeah, this was an interesting episode. To be honest with you, I feel a little conflicted about it, so the way we're gonna do this review this time is gonna be a little different from from the typical way that I do it. Because when I first watched it, I felt a certain way, but then after seeing other people's opinions and after reading other people's analysis of the episode, my opinion kind of changed a little bit, but still, I'm not quite sure exactly how I feel about it. But before we get into my review for this episode, I just want to say something to everybody who decided to give the previous episode a 1-star review on IMDb. If there's any of you watching this video, which I hope they're not, fuck you. Honestly, I'm sorry, but fuck you. It's not that bad of an episode. I can understand some people disliking that episode. That's completely fine, but it's not a 1-star episode. Just because your dumb ship of Daryl and Carol is not gonna be working out doesn't mean that the episode is bad. Daryl and Carol should not be a couple. They're good friends. They're good platonic friends. They should not be a couple. And I really hope that the showrunners going forward are not gonna go that dumb direction, because if they do, just because of the people who disliked this episode, I'll stop watching the show, honestly. I don't want to see them as a couple. They're great as friends. They shouldn't be a couple. And even though I can even see some plans for the future with or implications for the future with certain scenes in episode 18, I really hope they don't go that direction just to spite these assholes who disliked the last episode. But yeah, if you want to hear my thoughts on that episode, if you haven't, definitely check out that review. I really enjoyed that episode. But yeah, now let's get into episode 19. And this episode, as I assume you know, it was about Aaron and Gabriel. I was kind of excited, I guess, for this episode because I never thought that they would get an episode, but I definitely think they deserve to have an episode. And after watching it, even when I first finished it, when I was feeling that the episode wasn't really as good as I was hoping it was going to be, I kind of felt like this episode should have been done years ago at this point. Because it has a certain season 6 vibe to it. It genuinely feels like it would fit perfectly fine in the second half of season 6. All the way back before the show introduced Negan. It literally feels like it fits perfectly. The tone is the same, some of the dialogue is the same, and there's certain things, I guess some of the scenes feel reminiscent of the way Gimpo used to do stuff back when he was showrunner. Which is part of the reason why I feel like this episode didn't work for me that well, but yeah, I really like how much it feels like season 6 episode, and I can't wait to see people, YouTube reactors' opinion on this episode, because, especially Blind Wave, I can't wait to see whether they're gonna enjoy this episode, because I think they're gonna like it a lot, but I just wanna hear what they're gonna say, because a lot of people, I mean pretty much everybody, considers the latter half of the Gimpo era to be the worst thing ever that has happened on the show, so there's that. But yeah, when I first watched the episode, I kind of obviously didn't have an idea exactly what the episode was going to be. I knew that Robert Patrick was going to be in it, but I was predicting that maybe he was going to end up being the leader of the Reapers, because I thought that the Reapers were going to be just a season 10 C threat, but apparently that's not the case. So I was expecting that more of the episode was actually going to be about Robert Patrick, and that maybe he was going to be featured for the majority of it. But actually no, that's not at all what the episode did. The episode opened with quite a few really cool shots, actually. I really liked the cinematography of this episode, and there was a lot of cool the first like 10 minutes of the episode was really cool with Gabriel and Aaron just uh, looking around for supplies and finding a lot of walkers, a lot of skeletons, which actually looked really cool. And I think this was one of the few times that we've actually seen dead kids. In this case, it's a little baby skeleton, but it's still a dead kid. And I've talked about on Reddit about the fact that I think The Walking Dead maybe should use child walkers or child just dying children much more, because they hit you in a certain emotional way that an adult walker just doesn't really hit you anymore nowadays. But I feel like maybe if they use it too much, it's kind of gonna lose its weight. At least that's an argument that somebody pointed out to me, which I agree with. But there was a lot of really cool cinematography, and I loved seeing all the skeletons, which is kind of different for The Walking Dead, if I gotta be honest. Seeing all these dead zombies and then a bunch of skeletons, it was pretty cool. But I feel like that whole sequence with them just looking for supplies maybe went a little bit too long, because it was like half the episode. Like, I enjoyed it, I genuinely enjoyed it for what it was, but the thing is, when I was watching the episode, I was constantly after like the first 10 minutes, I was constantly checking how much time of the episode is actually left for us to actually get into the cool stuff, which was the stuff with Robert Patrick. But again, it was cool seeing the beginning with them just looking for supplies, and then all the wholesome scenes between Aaron and Gabriel. It was fun, it was entertaining, it's a little bit different. This episode overall feels very reminiscent of two episodes from the Gimpo era, actually, which is, I guess, why this episode feels so much like Gimpo wrote it or something like that. Because it feels very reminiscent to The Next World, I think is the name of the episode, from the second half of season 6, back when Rick and Daryl went on a supply run and met Jesus. It feels very reminiscent of that, and also of that episode with Michonne and Rick where they're at a carnival place or something. It also feels very reminiscent of that with the wholesome scenes and everything. So I enjoyed them for what they were, but similarly to how it was during the Gimpo era, which I still enjoy, but there's a certain lack of excitement with the things that they ended up showing. Like, the dialogue is fine, seeing them have a little bit of a downtime is fine, but I don't know, it's cool, but it's kind of not exciting, which I think is the biggest problem with the latter half of the Gimpo era. It's that it's not necessarily bad, but it's just not really exciting. So yeah, then about halfway through the episode, we get to the introduction of Robert Patrick, which was fine, but I feel like maybe the dialogue was a little clunky in that part, because I feel like it relied a little bit too much on the rule of cool rather than on a logical dialogue. But it wasn't too big of a deal, if I gotta be honest. From that point onwards, all the sequences with Robert Patrick and him talking to Gabriel, him shooting the gun, showing that he captured Aaron, was all really cool. And the dialogue for the most part is good, but there are a couple of instances when it comes to certain moments where the actress of Mace, who is Robert Patrick, and Seth Gilliam, I think is the actor for Gabriel. I don't know if it was just they didn't really do that many takes and they kind of had just a bad take to go with, but there were certain lines of dialogue that sounded just weird. I don't know. Like, there's one line where Gabriel says, which is like, "My name is Gabriel, what is yours?" And it just sounded weirdly childish. I don't know. It didn't really bother me too much, but with the fact that I wasn't super invested because the first half of the episode was kinda not really that exciting, it just stood out to me that much more. And there's another line with Robert Patrick where he is screaming at Aaron and Gabriel that people are evil because his brother left a scar on his face, and he's pointing at his scar and saying, "This is who people are, this is it," or something like that. And it just felt too much like a child throwing a tantrum, and it just weirded me out a little bit. And similarly, When Robert Patrick's character was telling his story about why he killed his brother or whatever, he told us that he was on the road with his brother and his family, and that he had saved them multiple times, but one day he woke up and his brother was eating his food. And just the way that is set up, I was expecting that maybe was going to say that he fucked his wife or something, because I was under the impression that when I was watching the episode in that scene, I thought that the wife and the child was Maze's, not his brother's child. So I thought the reason why he killed his brother would be kind of similar to why Rick had to kill Shane. I feel like that would have been a really cool callback, and it would have been really cool in my opinion, but it was actually because of food. And I think that that reason for and this still works as a reason for why Mace would want to kill his brother. It still feels like completely justified in the world and in the situation and everything, but the way he said it, I was like expecting something bigger and something more important as a reason for him to kill his brother, you know? But yeah, that wasn't the case. But yeah, all the sequences with Robert Patrick were great. I enjoyed everything. The Russian roulette sequence, I think, was actually pretty intense. Even though I didn't necessarily expect any of the characters to die, but I don't know. Like, personally, I'm weirdly not really convinced as much as other people are on whether characters have plot armor or not, because I feel like there's always a chance that the creators might be lying that the character's not gonna die. Like, for example, in what was supposed to be the season finale of season 10, we were kind of led to believe that maybe Carol would sacrifice herself to lead the horde off the cliff. But we obviously knew that she wasn't going to do that, because we know that there's going to be a spin-off show featuring Daryl and Carol, so they're kind of pretty much protected from dying for the next season. But part of me, when I was watching that scene, I was thinking like, hey, maybe they lied to us so we wouldn't expect Carol or Daryl to die in the next season. Who knows? So I always kind of have rationalizations, I guess is the right word, for why the characters could still die even though they probably won't. So the scene was kind of intense, and I think both actors, Seth Gilliam and Ross Marquand, did really well with their facial expressions, with the guns and everything. I kind of was able to feel the feeling that they would be feeling whenever they're holding the gun to their head and be ready to press it. Like, you would be ready to die if you hold a gun to your head. And it's just the way they portrayed the emotional relief after you actually did not blow your brains out. I think it was really, really cool. And yeah, one thing that bothered me about the episode after I first finished watching it is that for the whole episode, like for that whole sequence with Robert Patrick, actually is what I want to talk about, Gabriel is continuously trying to persuade Maze that they're not bad people, that they're good, that there's goodness in the world, that they're still good people and everything. And then he fucking comes in, they convince Mace to let them out, and then Gabriel comes in and fucking maces him in the head with Aaron's hand. Like, what the fuck was that? I guess it makes sense with the kind of thinking that he had before they met Mace. Like, he was talking about how evil people are not the exception to the rule, they are the rule. But I kind of forgot about that when he was convincing Mace that they're good people. I kind of forgot that he was thinking that. So it still makes sense that he did that, but I don't know. It just feels wrong for him to do that. And even Aaron acknowledges that, because Gabriel says, it's okay, we're good. And Aaron says, are we? I really like the dialogue in that specific instance. It's really good, it's simple, it's straightforward, but it's ambiguous enough. And I really like that. And I gotta say, I did not expect for Gabriel to take him out like that. It fucking shocked me. I haven't been this shocked. I don't know, maybe since that scene in season 9, episode 8, because I knew that the Pike scene was coming in the 15th episode of season 9, but I did not expect that Walker, who was the first Whisperer we saw, to move away when Jesus was trying to kill him. So I think this might be the first time I was this shocked. It's the first time since then that I've been this shocked. And yeah, I knew that Robert Patrick wasn't going to be an ongoing character on the show, even though that would have been really fucking cool, because he's a really great actor. He's really cool. But I don't know, I still did not expect them to kill him, especially considering that Gabriel kinda was trying to persuade him that they're the good guys, you know? That really came out of nowhere, and I really kind of like how they built it up to make it an unexpected twist, you know? But yeah, when I first watched the episode, I didn't really catch a lot of these things. I just thought the first half was kind of slow and boring, but I still kind of enjoyed it, and there was way too little time given to Robert Patrick. So I was kind of disappointed by this episode, but after reading a lot of other people's opinions on it, yeah, I kind of like it. It's interesting that it also finally gives development to some side characters that definitely should have gotten an episode a long time ago. So I wish they would give this kind of an episode for Eugene and Rosita as well, even though they've gotten a decent amount of development, definitely a little more than Gabriel and Aaron. I still wish they would get this kind of an episode, because I feel like for the Gimpo era, for some reason he didn't really focus on developing the side characters that much. He just had them as basically whatever you see that they are. Abraham, a quippy, I don't know what to call him, a badass, I guess. Rosita, a hot chick with a powerful gun, I guess maybe we could designate her to be, but he never really delved into the characters the way the previous showrunners did, because in season 1, for example, which I personally don't like, and I'm gonna get into it whenever I get to review that season, like, we had a lot of those like side characters for like an episode or two, like Jackie, for example, who died in the season 1 finale, but you already kind of give a shit about her. We've had Rosita, Eugene, Aaron, Gabriel for like, I don't know, what, 6 seasons now? And I still don't really give a shit as much. I don't really give a shit about them as much as I did for T-Dog, who basically didn't really do much while he was on the show. There's something about Gimpo's run where his side characters just weren't really engaging, or I don't know, he didn't really focus on his side characters. So having the characters having these kind of episodes definitely help in building up my interest in those characters. Aaron and Gabriel are definitely characters that I give a lot of shit about now. And especially I like that they got this episode, because I feel like as good as Angela Kang has been in season 9 and season 10, I feel like the show maybe has become a little bit too much Daryl and Carol already. Like, we're gonna have the spin-off with them, give more of the screen time to all the side characters that we have on the show. And yeah, before this point, it was basically the Rick show for most of it, with just a bunch of his friends getting also some level of development, but I don't know, at least with Rick, I can kind of justify it by he's the main character, the show is about him, the story is about him, but now he's gone off the show, so I don't really feel as justified with having Daryl and Carol just hoard all the spotlight, because I feel like Aaron didn't really do that much in season 10. He had a decently important storyline, I guess, but he didn't really do much. Or the same for Gabriel. I don't know, I'm getting a little sidetracked, so let's get back to the episode. There are a few things that I'm forgetting, like, for example, I really liked the boar scene where Aaron had to kill a boar. It was really funny, and I just love how his actor just says, they're vicious, like, it's really cool. I really love whenever there's good dialogue like that, and I love how in that scene, Gabriel just cannot stop himself from laughing, and in a previous scene, Gabriel ended up falling in a mud or Mudhole or something, and Aaron was laughing at him. So that was really interesting banter there. It was really cool. It definitely made me enjoy the characters more. Although I just want to mention, how many of you caught the nod to the comic book in this episode? Because obviously it was an episode focused on Gabriel, and a few times they mentioned a water tower. For those of you who haven't read the comic and don't want to be spoiled, probably don't continue going forward. But I mean, I don't know why would you be watching this if you don't know what's happening in the comic book, but because that's probably almost definitely not gonna happen in the show, because we are past that point in the comic in which that certain event happened. But in the comics, Gabriel is climbing on a water tower, and Beta is then leading a Whisperer horde towards, I think, maybe Hilltop, and he catches Gabriel at the ladder and ends up gutting him. In this episode, we see Gabriel talk about a water tower quite a few times, and then when he falls in the mud and a walker shows up and he ends up stabbing him, the guts end up being on the stomach. That's definitely a deliberate choice by whoever made this episode to be a nod to the comic book, and I really like that. So yeah, at first I thought it was a boring episode, but I think this is gonna be remembered as a really good episode. Although, part of me really wants to hate this episode, because apparently a lot of people who hated the last episode, which I think is a really good episode, love this one. So I kind of want to get back at them by hating this episode, but just because some assholes want to shit on The Walking Dead because their dumb ship of Daryl and Carol was gonna be thwarted by the showrunners. It's bullshit. It's such a dumb reason. It's such a dumb reason to hate that episode. It's the stupidest reason you can hate that episode for. You can call it boring, fine, but you cannot hate it for the fact that it ruined your ship. That ship never should happen. But again, I'm getting sidetracked. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Oh, what am I talking about? We completely forgot about the ending scene, which I think kind of ruins the episode a little bit, because after that scene in which Gabriel ends up killing Mace and that whole "are we good" thing happens, it would have been cool if the episode left it off here, because it would have been left ambiguous of whether Mace was actually a good person or not. But no, we have to find out that apparently his brother wasn't dead, and that Mace was keeping him chained in front of his wife and child's corpses. And considering what we had with in the episode with the Russian roulette sequence, it's not hard to imagine that that's probably what Mace put his brother's family through, because you can clearly see that his brother's wife and child have gunshot holes in their skulls. It's definitely what happened. And I gotta say, I fucking laughed out loud when I saw that Robert Patrick was playing Mace's brother as well. It was just, I don't know, it feels very cheap for a show like this. It's really not, because they explain it by them being twins, but it's just such a thing that shows that want to save on a budget would do. Like, for example, whenever a show shows the ancestors or descendants of a character, like in, let's say, some time travel show or something, and they end up showing the character's ancestors or descendants by having the character's actors play their own descendants, you know? It just feels kind of cheap in the same way, but it's really not. It's fine, they explain it like that. But I feel like revealing that fact kind of ruins the ambiguity of whether what Gabriel did was right or wrong, because Mace changed his opinion and let them go because he believed that they're good people and that he's gonna have good place to live, surrounded by good people. And then Gabriel comes in and does the exact opposite of what he was preaching. So much for practicing what you preach. But now that we know that Mace chained his brother to close to his the decaying bodies of his family, I mean, it could still be ambiguous, because that story could still be true, where his brother ate his food and he ended up killing him for that or whatever. It could still be true, just instead of killing him, he chained him up, but I feel like that's much more cruel than killing them, so yeah, I don't know. It just ruins the ambiguity a little bit, but it's not really too big of a deal. But yeah, overall I think it's actually a pretty good episode, but yeah, it does take a little bit of time for it to grow on you, because when I first watched it, I guess it's just the expectations that I had for the episode were very different from what the episode was, and I really hate personally when that happens, which is why I try not to have expectations, because more often than not I get disappointed. It happens with my K-pop reactions, and it happens with pretty much everything. Whenever I have high hopes for something, even if it's not that bad and it's genuinely good, just because I had very high expectations, I just end up not liking it as much. And I feel like that's kind of the case for this episode. I was expecting something more bigger, something more important maybe to the plot, and maybe more presence in the episode by Robert Patrick, but we didn't really get that, so I guess that kind of bothered me. But it was still a really cool episode, and I always love seeing more of the Walking Dead world and all the post-apocalyptic locations and everything. So there's that. So yeah, in terms of a rating, I think I'm going to give it a 9.1 out of 10, which I think it might be a very high score for this episode, but I honestly think it really deserves it. It feels like a good episode. There's really good tension, and it's a really shocking kill as well, so yeah, it's good all around, but depending on your expectations, you might not necessarily love it, you know? But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I think that's all the thoughts that I have for this episode, so hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. Also check out the description to my Twitter if you don't follow me there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you don't enjoy my stories, or you simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to Patreon where you can pledge your support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy on Wattpad. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!